Welcome to this edition of the Wonderbury podcast.
I'm Brian.
I'm Dave.
And you can find us online at wonderbury.com.
I am D. Wonderly on Twitter.
Or I'm Brian Keysbury, anywhere the internet can be found.
You can leave us a comment at our website. Check for the link in the description.
Yes.
And I finally nailed that line. First off, I'd like to apologize to everyone for the lateness of this episode.
Yeah.
It wasn't our intention to be 24 hours late with it, but hey, people travel, technical difficulties happen, things don't work out the way you want to.
Yep. There's what
Not a big problem. How's your week been? How was your vacation?
I wouldn't call it a vacation. Normal weekend, really.
That's all I get anymore is long weekends.
Yeah. Went to my parents to try to watch some of the meteor showers.
Did you get to see anything?
Not a whole lot. I did, early Friday evening. I was standing out, actually, while I was on the phone with you, originally.
Oh, yeah.
Standing outside taking a leak and saw a full 3/4 sky shooting star. Yeah, it was huge.
That's awesome.
That was cool. A little awkward. I was peeing and had to turn around to watch the whole thing. But that's the beauty of being outside in the country. It does matter.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I ended up working a lot of hours this weekend, so I didn't get to go see. Didn't have a whole lot of time off, and I gotta drive out. It's just, yeah.
Yeah,
because after I got off the phone with you, I went to work for a couple hours to set up for a wedding on Saturday, and then I worked cleaning up after that until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning last night.
Jeez.
And here we are Sunday evening.
Yep.
Just a working guy. That's all right. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah. So
cool.
We got a big episode about Tony Stark today.
Yeah.
I mean, Elon Musk.
It kind of kicked off. It was kind of funny because that he did an AMA on Reddit recently talking about the Mars trip.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite, probably going to end up being one of my favorite, not quotes necessarily, but one of my favorite things said was from Scott Kelly. He's a U.S. astronaut, record-breaking. I mean, he spent 520 days in space, and the last 330 or 340? 340 straight days on the International Space Station.
Yeah.
He said, when Elon Musk said he was going to launch his rocket and then land the first stage on a barge, I thought he was crazy. And then he did it. So I'm never going to ever doubt what he says ever again. I mean, talk about some high praise, though. Having been a space fan for as long as I have and kind of a space nerd, it kind of shocked and saddened me that Musk landing the rocket on the barge wasn't a bigger deal in the mainstream.
Yeah.
It was like people were just like, oh, cool, whatever. No, you don't understand. This is more monumental to space travel than the shuttle was. Yeah. And what it means for space. And I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from Bezos with Blue Origin. I'm not taking anything away. But there is a difference between launching something into suborbital trajectory and returning it and pushing actual payloads into space.
Yeah.
There's a massive difference between those two. Bezos was one of the first ones to land a rocket from a civilian sector, but this was something that pushed a payload into space And then he's managed to reuse the rocket to send another payload into space and return it back down a few times now.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I'm a little disheartened at times that it wasn't a bigger deal in the mainstream and what it means for space and exploration and all that stuff altogether. I don't understand how that wasn't a bigger deal.
I don't. It seems to be a general trend of not seeming to care about space things anymore, which is really, really sad and disappointing.
Well, thankfully we have multi-billionaires who do care about space things.
Yep.
Because what Musk has managed to do is making a lot of the space travel more affordable.
Yeah.
What Bezos is doing is making zero-grav experiments obtainable. So I know for his suborbital rocket, one of his plans that he had said, and I don't know where, I can't remember where I heard this, but he was talking about how he wants to be able to work with university students to be able to send experiments into suborbital space so they can run experiments that way and return it for an affordable price.
Nice.
And that to me was just, it's phenomenal to hear that is kind of the goals and the missions.
Yeah. Bezos still kind of creeps me out some, so I don't know. I don't know.
He's a unique and interesting individual, isn't he?
Yeah. Yes. There you go. I don't know. I don't know. He looks the part of an evil villain, and that gets to me. And Elon Musk just looks like, average nerd guy, which I'm like, Elon.
He kind of is. I mean, I kind of connect to him on that. I mean, the guy made PayPal, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So, going back to the AMA that Musk did, there were a few tidbits that kind of, there's a lot of information that he gave out. There's some cool little tidbits that he kind of hinted and dropped about the Mars run. Yeah. Because they want to go to Mars in the next, was it decade?
Yeah.
I think is the goals in some time in the 2020s, putting people on Mars.
Yeah, I think 2025.
I think that was the projection. And it sounds like, because someone asked him about putting more satellites around Mars to kind of get a better idea. And he didn't really go into much explanation other than just a simple, yes. Which is kind of an interesting, because the question was, Elon, does SpaceX have any interest in putting more satellites in orbit around Mars, or even rockets, for internet communications before we get feet on the ground, or are the current 5 or 6 active ones we have, they're sufficient? And Musk's response was, yes. Which, part of me absolutely loves that answer.
So they're plenty sufficient, but they aren't his, so he's going to put some there anyways?
I don't know. I think the ones that are there are probably sufficient, but on the same time, I think that he wants to put more in orbit. I don't know. Simple one word. So there's no context of what part of the question he was answering or what. Just yes.
Yeah.
Which I love the humor of the guy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fun and amazing. I think he also said somewhere in there that he wants to change the name, stop calling it the BFR.
What?
There's a whole nother idea of what he was talking about, and one of the names that was hinted somewhere in there is so set this up for a second. SpaceX names things in a very, very fun, unique way.
Yeah.
The barges are just follow the instructions, and of course, I still love you. So, after his keynote speech, at the 67th International Astronautical Congress in Mexico, he revealed what he wants to name one of his ships to go to Mars. And he wants to call it the Heart of Gold.
That was the name of the ship in...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to come to you in a second.
That one book.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
God, Hitchhike. I got Guardians of the Galaxy. I knew it was Galaxy, and then my brain was like, yeah, but it's not Guardians. What are they doing?
The other half of that, too, is that Musk's ship, for their Raptor engines, there's going to be 42 of them. I love this guy.
It's just so awesome.
It's so fun and so funny at the same time of just going, this is amazing. Like,
so,
just even the small things is just so much fun with him.
Is he just going to name the rockets the probability rockets?
You know what? I don't know. That would be absolutely hilarious, though.
Right? That'd be amazing.
Let's see here. The BFR design has been modified to allow higher payload mass. So that's good. They added a third center engine to reduce the risk of catastrophe in the case of an engine failure. If an engine goes out, now only a third of BFR's power is lost, not half. So that's good. He had talked about... He compared the interplanetary transport system, which is right now... So the BFR is the rocket that goes up, but I don't think that's what he wants to rename. The actual ship going back, or that's going to be going to Mars, is what I think he wants to rename to the Heart of Gold, because right now, internally, it's called the Interplanetary Transport System, or the ITS.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like ITS very much.
Yeah.
But he said that he kind of compared it to a transcontinental highway. So it would be a shepherd that would go back and forth between Mars and Earth. And then it would be up to what it would handle or what it would take with it of what you were taking to Mars or coming back from Mars that way. So it sounds like the idea is that you have a transport system that goes from Earth to space back to Earth. You have the Heart of Gold that goes back and forth between Mars, or the ITS that goes back and forth between Mars and Earth. And then you have a system that goes between Mars orbit to the Mars system surface. Back down to Mars.
Yeah. That's the same way they did, sort of the same way they did the original moon landing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they had the
lunar and the capsule.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I think that might be kind of part of what he's using as a basis for the landing and the launching and the kind of the reusability is something based off of that in a certain kind of way, I guess.
Yeah.
But he also said that he wants to exceed whatever the airline safety standards are for flight.
That shouldn't be hard. So
yeah, right?
He's just going to not drag passengers off of flights then?
Looking at you, United.
Yeah. I wonder. I've been curious if he's going to be taking self-driving vehicles to Mars. Like if the landers and any of the vehicles that they have to get around there, I'm wondering if they're going to be self-driving. Like you just plop in some coordinates and they go and figure their way out.
So earlier this year, I don't know. That's an interesting thought process on that. I mean, I guess to a certain extent, Curiosity is self-driving. I mean, it moves without an engineer over here actually moving controls.
Yeah. Yeah, actually it does, doesn't it? They're just like, we need to go this way.
It on its own, it kind of sniffs out minerals or it looks for abnormalities, and then it goes over there and investigates all on its own. So right now we do kind of have self-driving cars on Mars. Or at least a self-driving car on Mars.
A self-driving vehicle. Huh.
Yeah, I don't know. The Mars stuff is going to be interesting. I mean, I'm obviously, being as big of a fan as I am of this stuff, I'm totally stoked and excited about the possibility of being able to see people on Mars in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I don't have real vivid memories. I was 3 years old when Challenger exploded. I do remember when the Columbia broke apart upon reentry.
Yeah.
I remember that very, very vividly. But there really hasn't been... I mean, SpaceX to me is our generation's moon landing.
Yeah.
What they've been doing. There hadn't, in my lifetime, in the 34 years I've been alive, there hasn't been massive leaps. I mean, we've built an International Space Station of mere orbit decay. There was monumental stuff that way, but the International Space Station was probably the biggest achievement for space of my lifetime.
Yeah.
Thus far. And being able to see a monumental milestone with something like, the moon landing is absolutely a dream come true and phenomenal for me.
Right. That's for a couple of kids that watch a lot of Star Trek and have hopes for, a society like that. Like this is one step for us, and like the fact that we're going to see this big of a step of, hey, we're not just on one planet anymore. We're going to another one. We're gonna go plop down, and that's that. We're on 2 planets now. We're an interplanetary species. That's a big deal.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah, for some clunky humans that can't even get along 90% of the time.
Yeah,
to be able to go land on another planet, that
and not even not getting along with different nations. Even internally, we can barely get along as a nation.
Yeah.
So, one of the cool things about the VFR and the engineer in me just absolutely loves this. They built a fuel tank. They're building a fuel tank specially for a carbon fiber fuel tank that stands at 39 feet tall. They stuck it on a barge, towed it out, and pressure tested it to see if it would be able to handle the strain of holding 1,200 tons of liquid oxygen.
Jeez.
They pushed it and pushed it and pushed it until they blew it up. They pretty much exploded it from pressure. He goes, it shot about 300 feet in the air and landed in the ocean. Which is just amazing. But looking at the scale, the size and payloads and all that stuff, it looks like the BFR is going to be about as tall as the Saturn V, a little bit wider, but have a much larger payload area than the Saturn V did.
Yeah. I think there was even a graphic on the SpaceX website too that showed it and kind of compared it, and it showed all of their different rockets and a couple of other ones.
Yeah.
It just looks absolutely massive. Makes me excited. So
yeah, he has also talked about, and this is going to sound very crazy, is he wants to use the BFR's giant fairing and payload bay to scoop up and get rid of old satellites to prevent them from crashing into each other, or worse, crashing into a usable one. Which is a very interesting, I mean, to me that seems very strange of using a giant rocket as a ram scoop to get rid of debris.
Huh. It seems like that's a thing he would do, though.
No, it sounds exactly like something he would do. While we're here.
While I'm here. But I might as well just grab this junk, throw it away for you, right? Bro. Look. Hey, you guys done with that?
So yeah, Musk is this whole space and Mars, and there's still talk about doing stuff and putting up either a refueling or some other sort of stuff with the moon. I know Bezos has talked about setting stuff up with the moon. I think President Trump has talked about going back to sending NASA back to the moon. He wants to get NASA out of observing this planet and get them back out there observing other stuff.
Which moon? The first one or the second one?
Right?
The regular one. Not the one nobody knows about. It isn't quite a moon yet.
The false moon.
But we've got
because
we have a second orbiting satellite that nobody seems to know about. They found it in April last year. They think they're still holding off on calling it a moon because the orbit's only, what are they called, like quasi-stable. But I'm like, man, it's in our orbit. The moon's in our orbit.
Yeah, it's irregular, causing it to drift between 38 and 100 times the distance of our plan's primary moon, and to bob up and down across Earth's orbital plane.
Yep.
It's oh geez, it's friggin' tiny.
Yeah, it's not very big.
It's larger than 120 feet, but no more than 300 feet across.
Yeah. Yep. 2016 HO3.
Yep.
Yep. That's been one of my new favorite things to talk about. I'm like, hey, did you know?
Well, the other one was the planet, the new planet that they think that they've proved that it exists mathematically. We just haven't found it yet.
Yeah. And what's awesome is they've proved that at least one and maybe two exist. But they just don't know where it is and they can't see it. Either of them possibly. And apparently it might be huge, like Saturn to Jupiter size, somewhere in that area, maybe even bigger.
Yeah, there might be a new planet 9 in our solar system. It appears to be about 10 times the mass of Earth and is holding out the remote recesses well beyond where Pluto was. Or is, I guess.
Oh, I thought it was way bigger than that.
But there's a possible 10th. Hang on, I'm scrolling through this real quick. So it looks like it's on the other side of the Kuiper Belt.
Yeah. They said it is way out, and it's probably on a very kind of irregular orbit as well. So, which is pretty neat. Hey, did you know that at one point in time there was 24 planets?
Well, yeah, because there's a lot of dwarf planets, which is what
Pluto. That's what Pluto is.
Pluto was downgraded, I guess, or upgraded, whatever. I mean, it's joining a better family, a bigger family. But yes, we have a bunch of planets.
There's only 5 and maybe a 6th that qualify currently as proper dwarf planets. And the other ones only qualify to be asteroids, orbital asteroids, or something. It wasn't quite asteroid, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because the dwarf planets are, looking this up,
the Ceres, Eris, Make, Pluto, and the one that starts with H that I never remember how to pronounce.
Auma.
Yeah, that one.
And, well, I guess technically Luna would qualify.
Yeah, and that's the one they're like, well, we think, but we need to check it out first.
Well, Luna is... They added Luna, so I'm looking at this map. So Luna technically is not a dwarf planet because it's Earth's moon, but it's about the same size.
Yeah.
So Ceres is the one that's closest to us. It's in between Mars and Jupiter, somewhere around the asteroid belt.
Yeah.
And then you got...
Ceres was
Pluto.
Originally a full-on planet at 1.2.
Oh, yeah. No, it was a full-on planet for a very long time until they realized that it was too small, so they needed to downsize it to a dwarf planet.
Well, back then, because this was like the early 1900s.
Yeah.
They just were like, well, that was when they started seeing a lot more stuff in the asteroid belt, and they were like, well, maybe it's just an asteroid. And then when they downgraded Pluto, that's when they came up with a whole dwarf planet, and that's when Ceres got re-upgraded. And there was when they downgraded Ceres the first time, that's when there was 24 planets at that point. And they hadn't even discovered Pluto then.
Yeah.
So it was they upgraded Ceres and then downgraded it, and then it got re-upgraded again back in 2009, I think.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, I think it was that. And then New Horizons reached Pluto in 2015, so a couple years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, space bodies are my favorite thing ever, of all time. That's why I like Voyager, because Jerry Ryan, best space body ever.
One of the reasons why I like the game Kerbal Space Program as much as I do.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Because it's one of those, it's a sandbox game that's a lot of fun. You build your own rockets, it's based on actual physics. So much fun. Way too many hours dumped into that game. But, yeah.
I feel like we were talking about something there for a while.
Well, we were, and looking at it now is we're kind of out of time. So
tell us about your favorite space body. How's that leave us a comment with your favorite space body, whether, she's Endorian or made with an iron core. It doesn't matter. Leave us a comment.
Or an iron heart, depending on how it goes.
Yeah.
No, but I think we'll come revisit next week. We'll talk more about
the move on to Tesla.
Well, there's some really cool stuff that's going on that Musk is doing with his solar stuff. And then this week, and I want to touch on a little bit more next week, so maybe we'll talk about the Earth humanitarian stuff. Alphabet has partnered up with AT&T, and they're sending that balloon mesh network for they're deploying it in the United States they're deploying the United States over Puerto Rico to help with the relief efforts in Puerto Rico. So there's a couple cool things I want to talk about and kind of delve a little bit deeper into next week, but we'll continue on Musk and we'll talk about some other cool stuff that's been going on.
Yeah.
How's that sound?
The rebuilding of Puerto Rico is the coolest, most technologically advanced state in the nation.
And we'll see if after how they've been kind of treated or mistreated, if they'll still want to become a state or not.
Good point.
But till next week, guys, take care of yourselves.
Later.